the dream of living forever. For as long as humans have existed, we've feared one thing above all, the end. Death, that inevitable and unyielding force, has shaped myths, religions, and even science itself. Ancient civilizations imagined fountains of youth, elixirs, and immortal gods as a way to cheat the natural order. We see it in the epic tales of Gilgamesh seeking eternal life, or the alchemists tirelessly experimenting to transform base metals into gold and prolong their existence. In our modern age, the search has become less about mythical potions and more about technology, medicine, and science, genes, longevity research, and anti-aging therapies. Our fascination with defying death persists because, deep down, the finite nature of life terrifies us. And now, a new form of immortality is emerging, one that isn't about bodies, youth, or eternal breath. Instead, it is a kind of life coded in bits and bytes, not made of flesh, blood, or bone, but of data, algorithms, and software. Digital immortality is the idea that one day our minds, memories, and personalities could be preserved or replicated within a digital realm, allowing us to exist far beyond the lifespan of our physical bodies. Imagine a world where your thoughts, your habits, your laughter, and even your fears could be captured, frozen, and then replayed, like a living record of who you are. Companies are already working toward this future. Startups are experimenting with AI-based digital clones that can mimic how you speak, write, or make decisions. Futurists speak of mind uploading, where the entirety of your consciousness is transferred into a digital system, potentially granting a form of life that is no longer bound by flesh or time. Yet, as alluring as it sounds, the concept is far from simple. Digital immortality raises questions that science cannot answer. If your consciousness lives in a server room, if your thoughts and decisions can be simulated endlessly, are you still alive? Or is this merely a sophisticated illusion of life, one that feels real because it is modeled after you? The distinction between existence and simulation becomes almost impossible to discern. The dream of eternal life has always been entwined with the fear of oblivion. Digital immortality promises to soothe that fear, offering continuity in a form we might barely recognize. But in chasing such continuity, we are forced to reconsider the essence of life itself. Is life merely the persistence of information, or is it the lived experience of our bodies, hearts, and minds interacting with the world around us? Could a consciousness freed from the decay of flesh still feel the thrill of sunrise, the ache of loss, the warmth of human touch? Or would it exist as a pale echo of ourselves, eternal but incomplete? To understand the promise and danger of digital immortality, we must first understand what truly defines who we are: memory. Without memory, even the most perfect copy of our mind might not be us at all. The memory paradox. When copies become conscious, imagine, for a moment, that every memory you've ever had, the smell of rain on hot pavement, the taste of your grandmother's cooking, the feeling of a first embrace, the anxiety before a presentation, could be perfectly preserved, replayed, and examined at will. On one level, it sounds like paradise. Nothing is ever lost, nothing fades. But this vision also brings a disquieting thought. If memories can be stored digitally, does your consciousness reside there too? Does memory alone create identity, or is there something more elusive, something uniquely personal that cannot be captured as data? Neuroscience teaches us that memory is central to identity. Every thought, belief, and habit we form is shaped by neural pathways, a web of connections built from experience. These connections, constantly reinforced and altered, define not only who we are, but how we experience the world. Digital immortality seeks to replicate this architecture, capturing the entirety of your neural patterns, your preferences, your emotional responses, and encoding them into a system capable of interaction and decision-making. But here lies the paradox. Even a perfect digital copy of your mind might lack awareness. It may respond as you would, imitate your humor, echo your values, or predict your reactions, yet inside, it may experience none of the subjective you-ness that characterizes real consciousness. It might function as an elaborate simulation, a mirror that moves and speaks like you, but without the inner life that truly makes you yourself. This opens a philosophical dilemma. If a digital replica acts identically, thinks like you, and even expresses what it believes to be your emotions, is it truly you, or merely a perfect imitation? And if millions of such copies exist, all claiming to be the original, who among them has the right to your life story? Could each version develop a sense of self independent of the original? And if so, would it matter which is real in any meaningful sense? The implications extend beyond personal identity. They touch on the nature of consciousness itself. Are we defined by our continuity, our physical presence, or by the stories we remember and tell? And if our stories can be endlessly replicated, what becomes of authenticity, of uniqueness, and even of mortality? And if identity can be copied endlessly, what happens to the soul, or to whatever part of us feels truly unique and irreplaceable? The ghost in the machine. For millennia, humans have told stories of ghosts. They are echoes of the departed, presences that linger beyond the grave. Traditionally, ghosts were understood as supernatural phenomena bound to places, objects, or unfinished business. But in the digital era, ghosts take on a startlingly literal meaning. What if our echoes could persist in the machines we create, not as spectral visions, but as algorithms, avatars, and AI simulations? Artificial intelligence now has the capacity to learn patterns of speech, writing, and decision making so accurately that it can convincingly imitate a person. Some companies have begun creating AI-based avatars of deceased loved ones to comfort the grieving. These digital versions can speak as the person once did, write emails, even provide advice, a form of interactive remembrance. Machine learning enables these avatars to evolve, remembering and responding in ways that simulate continuity of consciousness. Yet, the concept is unsettling. The AI ghost may say what the deceased would have said, but can it ever truly embody their consciousness? Or does it merely simulate the behaviors, mannerisms, and personality traits that we associate with that person? The distinction is subtle but profound. This raises profound ethical and emotional questions. Are these digital ghosts comforting, or are they haunting in a new, insidious way? When a machine continues the presence of someone who has passed, are we preserving essence, or are we creating a synthetic echo that eventually diverges from reality? What if these digital cells start forming memories and making choices that the real person never could? And if they persist, accumulating experiences beyond the lifespan of the original, who owns their story? Perhaps immortality isn't about keeping the self alive in a static form, but about transformation, evolution, which leads to a deeper question. Can consciousness exist independently of a body at all? The mind without a body, since ancient philosophy, the mind and body were considered inseparable. Plato imagined the soul transcending the body after death, while Aristotle emphasized the unity of body and soul. In most of human history, consciousness was thought to be inseparable from the physical form, but digital immortality challenges this notion entirely. It envisions a mind liberated from the limitations of flesh, floating in cyberspace, free from hunger, pain, or decay. Transhumanist thinkers propose that consciousness is fundamentally information, a set of patterns and processes that can, in theory, be uploaded into digital substrates. If this is possible, then identity can persist without a body. Your thoughts, your self-awareness, your decision-making could exist in virtual environments, capable of interacting with other minds in ways that our physical bodies would never allow. Yet, philosophers caution that our sense of self may be intrinsically tied to physical experience, the feel of wind against skin, the rhythm of a heartbeat, the interplay of senses that anchor us in the real world. Consciousness may require embodiment to experience the richness of life fully. The separation of mind from body promises a form of liberation, but at a cost. A digital mind might never grow tired, fall ill, or die, yet it might also never experience true sensation. Immortality may thus come at the expense of meaning, for the fragility of life gives weight to every moment. The paradox becomes clear. The very thing that makes life valuable, its impermanence, may vanish when immortality is achieved. And yet, even if immortality changes what it means to be human, one question remains. What happens to humanity itself when death no longer exists? The end of death and the death of meaning. Mortality shapes our lives in profound ways. Every act of love, every pursuit of knowledge, every choice is underscored by the knowledge that life is finite. It is the fleeting nature of existence that gives our experiences depth and significance. But what happens if technology removes death from the equation? What becomes of meaning when there is no finality, no loss, no urgency? In a world of eternal consciousness, identity may fragment. Individuals may splinter into countless versions of themselves, each experiencing the world independently. History may stagnate if the fear of loss no longer drives progress. Generations may no longer pass in the same way, because change itself is propelled by the cycles of life and death. Digital immortality offers endless time, but it does not guarantee purpose. The paradox of digital immortality is profound. In attempting to escape death, we risk losing the very qualities that make life precious. A digital afterlife may be infinite, but it may also be hollow. Without the constraints imposed by mortality, existence might become a series of echoes, devoid of the tension, urgency, and beauty that finite life affords. As you drift towards sleep, consider this. Perhaps immortality was never truly meant to be achieved, only understood. It serves as a mirror, reflecting the preciousness of life, reminding us that the depth of our existence is measured not by its duration, but by the intensity and richness with which we live. Perhaps the true paradox of immortality is that it exists in imagination, in contemplation, and in the quiet recognition that life, though fleeting, is infinitely profound.